I am Daniel. I'm the founder of Startup CPG. Welcome to this deep dive and ingredient spotlight that we're doing on walnuts with our friends from California Walnuts. I'm really excited for you guys just to, obviously, if you're here, you're really interested to learn more about walnuts and their use in products, a lot of the advantages, nutritional benefits, product development considerations, all of that good stuff. I'm also just really excited for everybody to learn about some of the benefits of working with a board like California Walnuts, because there are a bunch and brands talk about it all the time of like, whoa, did you know that you can get all this cool stuff? And these industry associations are really cool. They are set up to support growers and farmers in so many different regions by helping them with business development and supporting brands like the ones in our community. So it's a really beautiful thing out there. So without further ado, I will pass over to Keith to get us started.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for attending today. I know how hard it is to sneak out an hour away from email to learn about walnuts. But as you can see throughout the day or throughout this session, we're going to talk about, things about walnuts that you probably already know, but also a lot about the innovative kind of platform that walnuts offer food brands. We're going to show specific examples. It was great hearing so many of you are already using walnuts. Hopefully, we can make a connection after this so we can help you out in any way possible. But so to get started, sort of why we title this Walnuts Up Close, because it's kind of an interesting name. Everybody probably thinks they know everything there is to know about walnuts, but it's really kind of the perfect time in the food industry right now for this specific tree nut. Because it really has everything that consumers are looking for. It's got a complex flavor that is known worldwide and used worldwide and fits in so many dishes here in America, as well as globally inspired recipes. It's also got that perfect texture, which we'll talk about, which is one of the main uses of walnuts in the food industry. And it has a whole host of nutritional benefits, some that you may know about, but others that I think you'll be surprised to learn about. And finally, it really is kind of just an amazing platform for innovation, which is what we're going to spend most of our time talking about. So to sort of get kind of settled in here, let's level set on who we are as the California Walnut Board. The first thing to know about us is that we represent basically the growers and the handlers in California. So that's 3,700 California walnut growers, as well as about 70 handlers. And most of these are really multi-generational farmers and family orchard. This accounts for about 99% of the walnuts grown here in the United States. And we've been established as a board to really help with publicity of walnuts, educational programs, research, things like that. I have the honor of working on the Food and Beverage Innovation Program, which is something I've been in the food industry for the last 25 years. And it's a great job because I work directly with food brands on basically helping educate them about walnuts, and then more importantly, prototyping products with walnuts in them and helping them get to market. So we're going to talk about a few examples of this later today, where we've worked with various startup food brands and basically launching products and getting them to market. So it really is the greatest job because we focus on the education side as well as kind of that inspiration and ideation of how we come up with something new and novel. Fortunately, you're not just going to be hearing from me today. You're also going to be hearing from my colleague Jocelyn, who's actually a walnut grower and she has a much more impressive resume than I do. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her now before she comes on a little bit later to talk about some fun things in sustainability and what walnut growers are doing. So Jocelyn is fourth generation walnut farmer. So she works alongside her father managing her family farm. And the fun part is she operates a walnut huller during harvest. So fun job as well. She's very involved in the young farmers and ranchers and farm bureau statewide, as well as nationally with the American Farm Bureau. She also participates in the California Walnut Sustainability Committee and is a farmer envoy for Solutions from the Land, which focuses on bringing farmers to international discussions on sustainability, water, and climate smart agriculture. So you've got kind of the best of both worlds here, talking about innovation on my part, and then talking about sort of how walnuts are grown and the efforts the industry makes to be as sustainable as possible. So let's hop right in with kind of posing a question where it's always fun to pose this question in person. It's a little different whenever we're online here because I don't expect 20 answers to come back at me. But the question is what do you really know about walnuts? Because it seems like a obvious question. Uh, Most people say three things or one of these three things. The first thing they'll say is, oh, walnuts are great and sweet treats. My grandmother's brownies, my chocolate chip cookies over the holiday seasons. Love buying walnuts, put them in that, buy, shelled and shell walnuts during the holiday season, crack them. If you ask them where walnuts are found, most of them are going to say, oh, I buy walnuts in the baking aisle. That's traditionally where they have made their home. They've been aligned as a baking nut. And then the third thing they'll say is, oh, walnuts are really healthy. And I'll always follow up and ask them why. I've been to a lot of trade shows this year. And they generally say something along the lines of heart healthy because they've seen the heart healthy label on a package of walnuts. But if you think about kind of what the ingredient is, that's really only half the story. Yes, walnuts are a great nut in sweet treats, but really walnuts are great throughout the supermarket whenever we're talking about packaged foods. An example of this is plant-based meat alternatives. Amy's, everybody familiar with that brand, they've got two different veggie burgers that they've had out for, goodness, probably 10 plus years now, and both of them use walnuts. So you may be thinking, why would a veggie burger use walnuts? Couple different reasons: savory taste and texture. We all know that, one of the main things missing from a lot of plant-based meat analogs is that texture. So they expertly use walnuts in that product to sort of provide some of that meatiness. So we're finding walnuts not just in bakery foods, but really in the snack aisle, in the beverage aisle, in the dairy aisle, all throughout. The second kind of myth is that walnuts are just found in the baking aisle. Yes, they are a baking nut, but there are also snack nuts. Here's an example of a roasted and seasoned toasted churro walnut from Unbound Snacks. So you can see that it's not just something that is confined to a plain walnut to use in baking. It's also a key part of the rise of functional healthy snacking. As you can see on this package, you've got the 4 grams of protein as well as the ALA omega-3 fatty acids. So again, not just confined to the baking aisle. And the final thing is, yes, they are heart healthy. Walnuts are extremely heart healthy. But there's also a building kind of overwhelming uh, amount of research coming out and that has been out over the last 15 years about other health benefits of walnuts, both centered on, yes, heart health, but also cognition. And a big thing is with the omega-3 fatty acids, which we'll spend a lot of time on later, because walnuts are the only nut that is an excellent source of omega-3 fatty acids. So there's all sorts of information about walnuts that people don't know about. You may also not know about that there's also a huge sustainability story whenever we talk about walnuts. And I'm going to bring Jocelyn on, who's going to obviously be able to tell you much more about this aspect about the walnut industry.
Thank you so much, Keith. Hi, I'm Jocelyn Anderson. I'm a fourth generation family farmer and work on my family farm with my dad. We farm walnuts, we also farm almonds, and then we run a walnut huller, which is the first step in processing walnuts once you harvest them. We have very many sustainability efforts on our farm, which is, if you're thinking of California, I'm in Northern California and I'm 90 miles north of Sacramento to kind of get your bearings of where our farm is located. One of the things that we do with sustainability is for our water efforts. We use a lot of technology in our farming practices these days, which is very exciting. We have weather stations placed in each of our fields, and those are not only great for monitoring the weather within the field, but are also connected to soil moisture meters. And those meters go down 3, 6, 9, and 12 feet into the soil so that when we do water, we're able to really track when the trees need water and be able to use just the right amount when we're watering our trees. One of the other things that we participate in is a program called Healthy Soils, which promotes planting like a grass hayseed mix in between your walnut tree rows each year in order to put nutrients back into the soil. That not only helps with the trees and even retaining water in the soil, but it also helps with any pest problems as well, maintaining a healthy soil. There's so much for the entire biome of the orchard that it can do in order to advance our practices and help us continue to be sustainable. One of the other things that we have on our farm as well is solar panels. So for almost all of our pumps that we use, which are used when we turn on water to irrigate our orchards, they're run by solar panels. And on our walnut huller facility, which is that first step in processing that I told you about, and in the pictures, you can see I'm sitting on part of our walnut huller, and then the big bins where I'm holding the walnuts is the final step where we dry the walnuts in shell. But that facility also has solar panels, which covers our entire electric use throughout the season, which is a really great thing that we're able to use. One of the great things about California farmers in general that I have to say is that we've been working on a sustainability commitment for all growers in California, which was developed by the sustainability committee I was on with California Walnuts for about the last 2 years. And those are our water management, our pest management, greenhouse gas emissions and carbon, and as well as soil health are kind of our main goals that we're working with farmers all across the state of California to be committed to. As a farmer, I say we're always sustainable because we're really here to keep this land in the best possible shape for generations to come. My family's been doing it for 4 generations, and then I like to see every generation after this continue to be able to preserve the land and also produce a really healthy crop that people can consume throughout the United States and the world. The other thing that I wanted to share too is that the great thing about walnuts is that everything can be utilized. And so even at the walnut huller level, which we dry them in shell, we're able to use any of our waste products that we have at the facility. So walnuts actually grow, and that green part that you see in the picture is called a walnut hull, Hull. And inside there is the hard walnut shell. Within the hard walnut shell is the actual walnut kernel or the meat that you eat and consume. And so when those walnuts are brought in to our huller, they're shaken off the tree, picked up with machines, trucked into our facility. And then the first step is taking off that green hull. And then they are put back into those big drying bins that you saw in the previous picture and dried in shell before getting sent off to the final processing facility, where they're either cracked out or sent in shell to other places. And so something that we do at our walnut huller is that any of that green hull or the leaves or the sticks or the dirt that come through the walnut huller get put into what's called a spreader. The spreader is hooked up to a tractor, and we actually spread all of that onto a field right behind our huller and use it as a fertilizer to grow a crop of winter wheat. And then any water that's also used in our facility is pumped back into that same field, drained into it. And so then it can drain back into our sub-basin of water, and we can be zero waste at our facility.
That's excellent, Jocelyn. And she'll be coming back later to talk a little more in detail about walnuts, how they're harvested and processed and make it to your facility and inside your products as well. So there's a lot to learn about walnuts, which is what we're going to do today. We already talked a little bit about their versatility, their sort of texture, as well as their health benefits and their sustainability. And it's also important to talk about their basically ability to go in almost any application. These are all three relatively recent new products that have been launched, and all three kind of completely different product categories. We've got our classic beet salad kit, which uses a combination of walnuts and goat cheese for a little bit of flavor as well as texture. Then we've got this amazing walnut latte. That's a ready-to-drink latte that uses walnut milk inside of it. And then these snacking walnuts that use a combination of dried apple pieces and walnuts to really provide that boost of just flavor in this healthy snack. So let's start digging in deep into each of these things. And I'm going to introduce Shelly. Shelly is our favorite walnut talking earlier about walnut puns. Every trade show we go, we put a new background where Shelly gives a quote. And we've got a trade show coming up in Las Vegas. And I think we probably came up with 200 walnut and Las Vegas puns for Shelly. So it was hard settling on one. But she's basically how we're conveying our information to the industry and making people rethink walnuts. And one of the things we want them to rethink about is the fact that, they're such a flavorful nut. Because a lot of people use various nuts sort of in the, food category as either something that's more neutral, so you don't taste it, it just provides other benefits, but walnuts really can provide everything. But you have to start out with asking sort of what does a walnut even taste like? And this was a question we had for ourselves a couple years ago when we developed this flavor wheel. And we were just at IFT last week in Chicago, the Institute of Food Technologists meeting, and we had this walnut wheel on display. And I was shocked at how many of the food scientists and marketers in attendance who just wanted to get their hands on this flavor wheel because they didn't know one even existed for walnuts. But it really needs one because the flavor of a walnut is so complex and so versatile in a variety of food and beverage products. So whenever you ask somebody, what does a walnut taste like? You're going to get a couple different things depending on who the person is. You're going to get mild, earthy, kind of buttery notes, a subtle nuttiness, maybe some bitterness at the end that balances it all out. Some people will talk about the savoriness of walnuts, really that umami enhancing quality. And if you look at the primary taste, it really goes everywhere from sour to salty to bitter to sweet to umami. So this gives product developers all sorts of kind of ways to use walnuts in a product because they can complement sweet products and add a little savory note, as well as savory products and add a little sweet notes. So where does this flavor come from? We saw a picture of walnuts not too far ago, but you'll notice there's a couple things going on with the walnut. You have the pellicle or the skin, as well as the meat, which has all sorts of the combination of those things. You get phenolic compounds, you get sort of a creaminess, fatty acid notes, you get natural sugars and amino acids, and all of these things create this really dynamic, complex flavor that stands out in a food product and really kind of helps elevate it. What's also unique is that, whenever used in a food product, it really has the ability, I mentioned earlier, to kind of make a savory product. So if you're making a savory product like say a salad that has, a rich cheese in it, using a walnut really has the ability in that savoriness to add a little sweetness. Whereas if you're making more of a sweeter product, it has the ability to turn it more savory. So this kind of complex flavor profile is coming from the combination of the oil, the tannins, the meat itself, and it really pairs well, not only on its own, but with all sorts of different flavors. This was a study we did a couple years ago where we looked at what people align the flavor of walnuts with. So what was their favorite pairings? Not surprising, chocolate. I think you can put chocolate on anything and everybody's going to say it's their favorite pairing. But you'll see here, there's all sorts of different types of flavor profiles, from sweet to salty to bitter with the coffee, to confectionery to spicy. So walnuts really have that ability to kind of meld in with a bunch of different flavor profiles. They also have the ability to absorb flavors, which is one of the reasons why if you go to a lot of restaurants, you'll see walnuts on the menu, especially in pasta dishes. Is walnuts have the ability, when used in a pasta dish, you're providing a little bit of texture, which is great, but it's also going to absorb that sauce. So walnuts have the ability to absorb a lot of flavors around them, which makes it a really good ingredient if you're making frozen foods, say natural or healthy frozen foods that have a sauce in them. You put walnuts in there and it's going to act as almost like kind of an umami bomb in each one of those bites of foods that you have.
Keith, I just wanted to add in. This is amazing, by the way. I feel like I'm learning so much right now, and I desperately am hungry for walnuts. Also, right now, I would love to hear from any of the brands who are in the audience because I know there are a lot of you actually using walnuts already in your formulations. Like, how is this resonating with you guys, especially the pairings, that kind of stuff? Like, maybe if you guys can in the comments just drop anything that you're seeing and how it kind of relates to your brand, I'd be super interested. And also, I'm just probably a lot of you guys are going to be eager to partner with California Walnut Board. So I'm just putting their email in the chat here just so you guys have it. Back to you, Keith. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. And yeah, also drop in the chat what you're currently pairing with it. Because, we're seeing a lot of trends come up now, especially with dates. It's kind of a natural fit with walnuts, things like that. So, but back to flavor, it's not only coming from kind of the walnut itself, but also in terms of the size and color of it too. So, most walnuts you're familiar with are very light in color. That's kind of the preferred, color of walnuts, but they also come in darker colors as well as even kind of red walnuts, which have completely different flavor profiles. So that's one of the things we can help you out with whenever you're creating a formula. There's certain walnuts that will go better in certain products if a more robust flavor is needed or a more subtle flavor. Walnuts can also be ordered by size, which is great whenever you're talking about using them in a product, because sometimes you're going to demand a whole walnut half, and other times you're going to want small pieces to be included. And then sometimes you're going to want a product like a walnut meal, which is like a ground walnut, to be used as like an ice cream variegate. To really kind of, add that little bit of subtle texture, or you see them used a lot in doughs and crusts. So that's a little bit about flavor. Let's kind of talk about how we're rethinking texture too, because as part of the flavor, texture plays a role in it. Because whenever you bite something, it's going on your taste buds, you're immediately perceiving the texture of it as part of the flavor package. What's unique about walnuts is kind of the texture journey that you go on. It's one of the few products out there where you can call the initial bite anything from crispy to crunchy to brittle, kind of really has that snap. But then as you chew it, it almost becomes chewy and meaty. So it really has this kind of perfect crunch, but it's not a hard nut. It's not something that you're going to have to worry about, being too hard in a product. It's going to provide that chew and that texture, which is why we see it so much used in like a vegan bolognese, a jarred sauce, where it mimics kind of that meatiness inside of that. And then the finish is everything from oily, so it has all this kind of journey that goes along with the texture. I personally, whenever I talk to food brands, I always position it as the Goldilocks of nuts. It's not too hard, it's not too soft, it's just perfect right in the middle. It's something that's going to provide crunch and a texture, but it's not going to kind of overwhelm with hardness or be too soft. You see kind of this use of texture and applications everywhere, from your traditional topper in a banana nut muffin, which Dolly Parton signed off on walnuts. So if Dolly likes it, everybody likes it, right? To smaller pieces used in that good thinking bar, to really, more frozen entrees like these chipotle glazed carrots. This is where walnuts can really shine in providing an unbelievable texture to kind of these products that demand texture but don't want to use meat. So we're seeing walnuts, both their flavor and their texture, kind of showing up everywhere in food products. Now let's kind of shift on to innovation, because it's really why we're all here, is how do we innovate with walnuts? Because that's, in my opinion, that's our role as the California Walnut Board. And most of you on this call, I'm assuming, are startups or early in your journey of developing food products, or maybe mid-size and out on the marketplace. So most people don't kind of align innovation with ingredients that are one of the oldest tree nuts known to man, but there really is so much innovative work being done on walnuts by the board, as well as by some really innovative brands out there. We're going to talk about 4 different things. First one is walnut butter. You know, probably something that everybody's kind of somewhat familiar with. But where you may not be as familiar with is kind of multi-use. Yes, you can do a regular walnut butter, either 100% walnut butter. You can put all sorts of amazing omega-3 fatty acid claims on that product. Or you can make a spread that's blended either with other nuts, or it's blended more like a dessert product that's got chocolate in it, almost kind of like a different take on some of the chocolate spreads. Or, you know, align it with a dessert spread, because walnuts are used in so many of your favorite desserts, like this Big Spoon product, which is a carrot cake walnut butter. So walnuts make a fantastic butter either on their own or mixed in with other nuts and seeds in various products. As a component, though, in product development of packaged foods, walnut butter has a real strong position in a couple different areas. Snack bars, kind of acting as either a binder for products or a kind of protein boost that you can put in the middle of it that's going to deliver flavor as well as a bunch of nutrition benefits. Walnut butter works great in ice cream, again, as that kind of variegate and variety of baked goods, as well as confectionery. If you're interested in walnut butter, it's just like other nut butters where you can get it in smooth and creamy, you can get it chunky, flavored with a variety of things, and in terms of packaging, available in many different formats, from small pails to large barrels and totes. So there's really an opportunity out there that we've been working a lot on innovation in walnut butter. So if it's something you're interested in, just email that email address, and we'll be able to help you, guide you through that process. An area that may not be as familiar and really isn't familiar to a lot of people are walnut creams. So whenever we talk about, you know, innovation as either a product itself or as a component, this one is definitely more on the component side. So we've been spending the last probably 3 to 5 years quite a bit of time basically figuring out the best way to make walnut creams in a variety of thicknesses, and then how to incorporate them in other products. And it's really an amazing product for a couple different reasons. The first one is it's only 2 ingredients. It's walnuts and water. So you blend those 2 things together and you're going to get a walnut cream. Now, the really key part about this, especially if you look at sustainability, if that's important to your brand, is that there's no waste whenever you make walnut cream or walnut milk. So certain of these products, you know, there's a waste stream, you have to strain it. Walnuts compositions are unique with their oils, with the makeup of it, that there's no waste generated. So just by blending walnuts with water, you have the product. By sort of tailoring the ratio, you're going to get, you know, the thickness of it. So we work with 3 different formats: thin, medium, and thick, that can go as a replacement in everything from milk and heavy cream to yogurt, mayonnaise, Greek yogurt, cream cheeses. So think of it as kind of a replacement if you're making a plant-based salad dressing that is cream-based. A walnut cream is going to provide that same sort of functionality. And an RTD coffee or a beverage product where you want a cream in it, walnuts are going to have that ability to kind of provide that subtle nuttiness, as well as not generate any waste with the product. Where we've really focused, and I know this eye chart is about, you know, is difficult to read as a flavor wheel, but it really is a platform for innovation. So here's how we look at it whenever we talk to brands: is we've got this walnut cream, and if they're, say, making a beverage, we know, okay, we need to help them go the thin route. How do we do this? We can, you know, use this in beverages as either a foam, a cream, and lattes as a base for other products. Or we can go the food route where it's used in sauces, batters, and doughs. Soups is a big one we're using a lot of walnut creams in, to kind of thicken it with a product that is also delivering nutrition benefits. You can also go the thick route where we're talking about, Greek yogurts, cream cheeses, adding it to various things such as fillings and icings. We're going to be at a baking trade show in September where we're going to be sampling out a walnut ganache, which is a vegan ganache made of walnut cream and chocolate that is absolutely amazing. So just by kind of working with food brands, which is one thing I want to convey, is this is what we do. We can help you get where you want to get if you decide to use walnut creams. We help brands go along that journey, testing out products that will help them basically kind of get to where they need to be. One brand that's done a great job of this is Elmhurst. They do 3 different walnut products. They do a straight walnut milk, which is just walnuts and water and a milk. And as you can see, it's got the excellent source of omega-3 acid label on it. Then they also do a walnut barista, which is a cream. So a cream you put whenever you make your coffees or various specialty coffee drinks. And then they also make an RTD latte. So all kind of varying thicknesses of the walnut cream. Walnut meat is another area. I've already talked about this a little bit with the Amy's product, but you can also see walnuts used as a meat replacement, mainly ground beef, and a variety of other products. This Fody product, this plant-based bolognese, has been around for many years, and it uses a combination of walnuts and squash to really provide that meatiness inside of a bolognese. You also see walnuts being used in a variety of crumbles, plant-based crumbles, because, if you think about it, you can combine them with walnuts in a legume, blend them, and it's going to give that ground beef texture. You can use walnuts and vegetables, or you can do just walnuts alone. If you just do walnuts alone, saute them with a little bit of oil, throw on taco seasonings, it's the perfect vegan kind of Tuesday night taco meal that you can whip up. I guess it's next week for next Tuesday, you can put that together. It's real simple. You're seeing a lot of this on food service. We see a little bit of it on packaged goods, but we're seeing a lot of it on food service. This product was actually just launched. If you have a Lazy Dog near you, I think it was launched either last week or 2 weeks ago, where it's their vegetarian enchilada that uses a combination of mushrooms and what they call a walnut chorizo, which is just walnuts ground with chorizo spices. And it's providing all that texture in a completely natural whole food product. So you see a lot of these on the marketplace at various restaurants. And then the final kind of platform for innovation is the newest, which is a skinless walnut. So a lot of people haven't heard of skinless walnuts. They haven't been around for that long, but it is what it is. It is a walnut with the pellicle removed. So what that does is it creates kind of a different flavor profile. It's a little creamier. It's a little sweeter. It's a little buttery, a little bit more savior. And we just had a product launch, which made quite a bit of news at specialty fancy food shows, which is this Dusra Indian snack mix. And this product was just launched. It got tons of press. This was an example of one of the brands that we worked with. So we actually met Kartik, who is kind of the owner and founder of the brand, at a trade show in December. He attended one of these sessions, reached out to us, says, I'm really interested in exploring product development. So we worked on coordinating samples back and forth, how to get the best product to him. And then he just launched it at Specialty Fancy Food Show, which is really exciting because it was really the first time a skinless walnut has found its way into a snack mix, and really kind of opens up other avenues for use for walnuts.
And a bunch of people were talking about this brand at the show. This was definitely one of the hot new brands. We were in that same section with them up at the top of Fancy Food. So I'm very excited. And I think we'll have him on a podcast coming up also to
Very
really
soon,
feature
yeah.
this brand. Keith, there are a bunch of cool examples coming through the chat. I thought it'd be cool to just call out a couple from
Definitely
our community. Like so many, I don't even know how to pronounce everything that's coming out. But Elizabeth mentioned because when we were talking about the pairings and everything, she's talking about pear gooner and gorgonzola cheese. Quiche is something that she's making. Somebody else does vanilla and vegan vanilla protein powder to give it a frosting flavor with their sprouting process, because their sprouting process removes a lot of the bitterness.
Mhm.
Um, oh, pear and ginger, sorry, and walnut sour component to make a pizza walnut, a Nuda pizza walnut. Dip sauce spreads with walnuts as the number two ingredient. There is some incredible stuff. Meatballs with walnuts also.
Yes.
There is just it's everyone should just kind of scroll through the chat and just seeing all the really awesome stuff that everybody's doing. And yeah, keep the
I love to hear that. I love to hear the pizza one because, if you go over to Turkey, they have a pizza-like product that, you toast walnuts and you sprinkle it over, and it's it's the perfect texture. It's a great bite. It doesn't taste like, sausage on a pizza, but it provides everything that you want. It's got the flavor, the texture, everything like that. So it really is a great add-on to pizza, I feel.
That's cool. And Elizabeth is talking about making Dubai chocolate, but with walnut butter. I would be
Okay.
super interested to try that too.
Elizabeth, reach out to us because it's something that we talk a lot about and are starting to work on sort of what's an interesting take we can do.
All right. And just for everyone's benefit, I'm just one more time dropping their overall email in the chat here. So for anybody who's interested in talking to them more, and we'll talk more about some of the support that they give brands also, but I'm just putting their email in the chat.
Awesome. Perfect. Let's the last close thing we're going to look at before we end with a little bit about just how walnuts are grown, because, a lot of people don't know for a fact that they grow on trees and how we get them off the trees. So we're going to cover a little bit about that. But before, just real quick on nutrition, because this is really one of the main benefits whenever you use walnuts. Here's the basic baseball card view of walnuts, what I like to say, looking at the stats on the back. We've got the protein, we've got the fiber. The good fats is really interesting to kind of analyze because, as you'll see, walnuts are the only tree nut that has way more polyunsaturated fats than monounsaturated fats. It's one of the things that makes walnuts unique. We're also an excellent source of copper and manganese and a good source of magnesium and vitamin B6. Perhaps the most thing we're known for, though, is we are the only nut with an excellent source of omega-3 ALA. And obviously, this is from a plant-based source. So alpha linoleic acid is an omega-3 fatty acid, and why we call them essential fatty acids is because the body doesn't produce them on our own. So we have to get them from our food. Omega-3s have been proven beneficial in everything from heart health to cognitive health to overall mortality. It's really such a important nutrient that we have, and that we're the only tree nut that has this excellent source of it. This is great. We see a lot of it being used in functional snack mixes, where is all the rage now is whatever ails you will create a snack mix to kind of cure that. So you see all sorts of omega-3 snack mixes like this one right here that have a combination of walnuts, usually flax seeds, cranberries, things like that, to provide you with your daily serving of omega-3s. Overall, I could spend hours, and we do. We have whole conferences based on walnut research, but I'm just going to highlight three areas that are important because that's what everybody in the food industry is talking about. The first one is brain function. Daily walnut consumption has been associated with positive cognitive performance as well as slowing cognitive decline. So brain food is starting to really generate a lot of popularity. There's a couple brands that do it now. There is countless amounts of research on walnuts and cognition that we can share with you. So it could really be a great part of any product that goes into that brain health kind of category. Gut health is another area. We see it such an important part of what people are looking for. And there's a lot of emerging research that shows walnuts are supporting gut health through their kind of prebiotic potential, as well as kind of energy and weight management. So there's research that's showing walnuts, not only boosts metabolic health in young adults, but also make you feel fuller. So I think as we see all these GLP-1s gain popularity, something like a walnut, which is a nutrient powerhouse, has those essential omega-3 fatty acids and has the umami, the savory notes in there, what they crave, it's going to be a really key part of those functional snacking products that go to people who are on GLP-1 drugs. So hopefully we've convinced you that the flavor's good, the texture's good, there's tons of room for innovation. Now we're going to close it out by sort of convincing you that California walnuts are where you should be going whenever you source your walnuts. California walnuts aren't originally from walnuts. Walnuts were actually originated in Persia, but once they started being traded along the Silk Road, they kind of adopted the name the English walnut, which is what we grow in California. It's called the English walnut. They really came over in the late 1700s by the Franciscan farmers. And by the 1870s, commercial production, in Southern California had really started to ramp up. Why California is such a great place is because we've got Mediterranean-like weather and great soil. And over time, sort of the plantings have moved much more northward, which Jocelyn's going to take it back over and talk a little bit about where we grow walnuts now and why it's such a fertile ground for growing walnuts.
Yes, thank you so much, Keith. So primarily now, walnuts have moved to the Central Valley of California. So you can see they go pretty far north, all the way down south to just above Los Angeles. The darker green is where the most density is. So you can see my region is kind of up there in the dark green at the very top. And then some more darkness in the dark green in the Central Valley, as well as a little bit in the South Valley. But really, the Central Valley up and down California has the right soil, the right weather conditions, and even the right climate to really just be the best growing region for walnuts in general. And we'll go over a little bit of the process of walnuts. So you saw a few pictures earlier on the slides, but we'll go over the entire, each step. So first, walnuts are ready for harvest, and you can tell by when that walnut hull starts to split. So as you can see in the first picture, that green hole is splitting, and you can see the nut inside the walnut. This is the indication that it's time to go. Our first step that we do in processing walnuts is we shake them off the tree. So the machine you can see in the middle picture is actually called a shaker. And it has two huge arms with rubber over them that grab the trunk of the tree and literally shake it so that the walnuts fall off. It's a pretty cool process to see. The next step is a sweeper. So a machine called a sweeper comes through. There's a blower on one side and a paddle on the other side. And this essentially blows any nuts to one side and then sweeps them from the other side so that they form a perfect row so that the pickup machine can then come and pick up the walnuts and put them into a trailer to go to the walnut huller. As I said, my family has a walnut huller. And so with walnuts, you take them straight from the field into the huller. You go through a process of removing sticks and leaves and dirt and rocks even from any load that comes in with walnuts. And then the green hull is removed with the huller, which is typically a cylinder that's metal, and it grates the green hull off of the walnut. Then they go through color sorters because if they turned black inside or anything like that, you want to get those out of the good walnuts. And then if there's any hole left on there and they're green, those get kicked out too. So that's a series of cameras. And then they're taken back to the final dryer, which they dry anywhere from 6 to sometimes 24 hours, just depending on how moist the walnut is on the inside. They need to be anywhere from about 4 to 7% moisture in order to be able to ship them to the final processor. Once they go to the final processor, that's where they are either taken out of the shell. And as Keith showed you earlier, you can get halves of walnuts, you can get pieces of walnuts. They're sorted by all different sizes. You can get walnut meal, or they're kept in the shell and shipped to people as well that way. I have to say that in every part of the California walnut industry, we're really lucky to have such a premium product. Our growers and our processors all follow really strict food safety standards. We have a lot of regulations and rules that we also have to follow so that you can know when you are getting a California walnut, you can really trust that it's going to be premium quality coming from the growers and the processors here in California. Not only do the walnut hullers do a great job at sustainability and reusing any waste and having zero waste facilities, the same thing goes for our processors. Walnut shells and anything that is produced in that they cannot use are used for other things, whether it's going into something that's biodegradable, if it goes into feed, if it goes into even covering gravel roads sometimes with walnut shells to keep dust down and mitigate dust. There's been a lot of innovation on that side of the industry, and we're just really lucky to live in California and have such a wonderful quality product that we're able to share with people in the United States and across the world. And then for the California walnut industry, we harvest walnuts from September to November. Typically in my area up north, we always start by September 15th with our earlier varieties. And then we're usually wrapped up around November 1st. It varies a little bit up and down the state depending on where you are. For us, we have 4 different varieties, which is something that not everybody knows. There's Chandlers are the main variety that you're going to see throughout the US, and also Howards. But we also grow a variety called Hartley's and a variety called Gillet's. And so there is a neat different varieties all throughout the state. And then our 2024 and 2025 crop was about 605,000 tons or 1.2 billion pounds of in-shell product. We have 3,700 growers throughout the state. And again, most of these are small family farms that are just like me, 4th generation, maybe 5th, 6th generation, depending on how long their families have been farming in the area. We have 70 handlers and processors in the industry. So that's that final step in processing, whether walnuts stay in shell or get cracked out. There's 70 different handlers throughout the state. And then 99% of US or almost 100% of US production of walnuts is here in California. And then we have about 27% of world production as well.
And what's going on in the orchard right now, Jocelyn, at this time of year? Like where are the walnuts at?
Yeah, so everything's still growing. We're kind of waiting right now. We'll see the meat starting to actually grow and fill in. And so one of the other things we do besides that whole split is we take a walnut off the tree and we'll cut it in half and look inside and see, we call it packing tissue, where that's going and how much of the walnut meat has grown into the shell. Really, when it's up to 100%, that's when harvest is about ready. But we won't see that for at least another month, 6 weeks now for the walnuts. So we're just right now maintaining and making sure that our water and irrigation methods are on point, especially when it gets really hot up here in Northern California, and hoping that we have another good year of harvest.
Awesome. Excellent. And that's all we got for you today. I know posted the email in the chat, but there it is again. On behalf of the California Walnut Board, thank you guys so much for taking the time to learn a little bit more about walnuts, and don't be afraid to reach out if you want to work on a project together. It's something we love doing.
Yeah, and if anyone has a question right now, if you want to throw it in through the Q&A, because we just have a couple minutes left, a couple I'll just mention. First of all, I didn't know we had a celebrity here in the audience. Sue Lee said that actually her dad invented the process to make skinless walnuts. So good stuff, Sue. I also just ordered a pack of her skinless walnuts from Valley Walnut, which is grown in the Central Valley. Okay, a couple questions that came up. Do you mind, Keith, maybe just talking again about what is a great thing that California Walnut Board can do working with brands? Like when they reach out to you, what's the kind of support that you can help brands with as they're creating products or as they're getting into market, all that kind of stuff?
Definitely. The big thing is tapping into our experience. So we have experts, both culinary experts, as well as technical experts that have worked in a variety of categories. So, we can answer those technical questions right off the bat. If it's something that you've never worked with walnuts before, we can help you with sampling. So we would provide the samples for you, work with you in terms of once you start bench testing those samples, going back and forth. Well, we had this issue or this, kind of brainstorming ideas. We also have a whole host of data once it gets to marketing products or pairing products. What has been successful products in the past? What are some of the more trending flavors, things like that? And then once a product has been finalized and ready to go to market, we can also help in some cases on promotional support, whether that's through retail or kind of social media, and providing some funds behind that to get the word out about this great new walnut product. So really the whole process from ideation all the way to the finished part. And we also do like what we just did. We'll also do in person at certain companies. So say you're interested, we would look at your product categories, develop a couple different prototypes, go talk to you about them, pitch them to you, and go from there. And it's all free resource. We don't. This is what we're here to do, is to help kind of food brands really take advantage of this amazing tree nut.
And I see a few questions coming in like, hey, where can I find organic walnut products? Can people email you for some help sourcing as well through that same email?
Yeah, we have a handler list that we can send over that has all that information on it.
Okay, so just at that same email that you see on the screen, foodinnovation@walnuts.org. Okay, another question that came in was around shelf life. I don't know if I don't know if you and Jocelyn can talk a little bit about like, yeah, what is the shelf life for this kind of a product, or maybe once it's actually mixed into another kind of finished good?
Yeah, it's always a question we get from food manufacturers, because one of the things that make walnuts so nutritious and so healthy is their omega-3 fatty acids. But that can also be one of the things, if it's not handled properly, can make that nut kind of have a bitter flavor. So there's all sorts of things you can do that we would love to talk about depending on the application. You go to the store and there's tons of products, especially you look bars, snack mixes, cereals, where walnuts have a 12-month, on product shelf life. So you can get there, but you do have to, do some things such as, not using transparent packaging, because you don't want the light coming through and blasting on the walnut. If you include the walnut as an inclusion, like in a bar, it's better for it to be fully included in the bar, not part sticking out. So depending on the application, if it's a frozen food, you don't have to worry about anything at all. But if there's, depending on the application, that's one of the biggest questions that we work with through them, is how can we figure out how to make sure that the product you get from Jocelyn, that is beautiful, that's perfect, that's ready to go, whenever your consumer eats it 6 months later in your product, that it tastes just as good. So there are some finicky things you have to worry about, but it's not a technical challenge you can't overcome.
Okay. Sydney was just asking, do they go rancid on the shelf? I don't know enough to answer that.
Like, just if, I mean, it's all a shelf life question. So if they're protected, I guess Jocelyn could probably talk more about what they do from their side to make sure whenever they get to the retail shelf that they are in perfect condition.
Yeah, so most handlers have cold storage facilities because keeping them refrigerated and cold does extend the shelf life and preserves them from getting that more of like the bitter taste that sometimes you get from maybe walnuts that have been out, on your counter for, 6 months or longer. So really cold storage is a great way for all handlers to, preserve walnuts and make sure that they stay fresh for when they get to you.
And from a consumer perspective, always keep your walnuts in the refrigerator or freezer.
All right, words to live by. I'm just putting their email one more time in the chat because I see people continuing with questions about wanting to connect with the team here. So foodinnovation@walnuts.org if you want to talk to them about your brand or have walnuts questions, that's a great place to do it. I saw somebody else also
Yeah,
talking
even if you
about.
don't have questions and you just use walnuts, let us know about it. We'd love to hear about your product, promote it however we can.
All right. Austin said he has his soaked and sprouted walnuts tested and it extends shelf life to at least 1 year. Austin also asked about, what about organic versus non-organic walnuts? Like, what do you see as the difference?
Jocelyn, do you have a
I,
opinion
I
on?
don't I don't think, yeah, I don't think anything necessarily in taste. Taste is different with organic versus non-organic walnuts. Organic walnuts are most likely going to be a little bit more expensive on the wholesale level to purchase them just because there's less people who grow organic walnuts. But when you're looking at a taste perspective, the walnut is so protected in that thick, hard shell that you're not going to get a huge difference in, or a difference at all in taste buying organic versus non-organic.
Yeah, if you think about it, you've got that green hole and then the hard shell. So yeah, it's pretty exact.
All right. Oh, and somebody else mentioned using it with cat litter, which is pretty interesting as
Yes,
well. We have a
there is.
ton of pet brands in the community.
Yeah,
So
we track new products, and every once in a while we'll get a really random one like cat litter where we're like, okay, it's got walnut shells in it,
all right. So I really want to thank both of you. Keith, obviously, this is just a ton of incredible information that I never knew I needed to know about walnuts. And it makes me desperately hungry for some walnuts, which is why I ordered a couple of the products that you guys were mentioning in the chat. And I'm super excited to try them. Jocelyn, thank you very much. You got a lot of love in the comments here in the webinar chat, saying thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I would say to anyone, if we didn't get to one of your questions or you decide you have one later, definitely hit up that foodinnovation@walnuts.org. Maybe mention the webinar that you heard about them on Startup CPG, and then they'll know all the stuff that you already learned. And maybe hit them with some additional walnut puns if you come up with any, because maybe they haven't heard it before. I don't know.
I challenge you. I think I've heard every single one.
You get extra service from them if you can come
Yes.
up with a new one, I think. So thank you guys so much. Honestly, I just loved everything that was coming in the chat. I just have been scrolling through this and just seeing all of these new ideas and all the excitement for working with the Walnut board. That's just really cool. So thank you, everybody, and definitely check out the replay on our YouTube. It'll be posted there, and the slides will all be sent out.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.